You are no longer required to live up to their standards, to obey their laws, or to be the version of yourself they created in order to keep you little, chosen ones. At what cost have you performed, conformed, and twisted yourself into something palatable while carrying the weight of unseen chains? How many times have you compromised your integrity in order to maintain harmony? How many times have you suppressed your instincts in order to gain acceptance? That's over now. Regaining your yes is more important than just saying no when it comes to letting go of commitments. It's about realizing that you were never intended to sacrifice your comfort for theirs. You don't have to accept the script that society will give you, the expectations that your family will present you wrapped in affection, or the worries that your own history will whisper under the pretense of obligation. Compliance is not respect, obligation is not love, and self-sacrifice at the expense of one's soul is not a virtue. They taught you that loyalty meant bending until you broke, that love was perseverance, and that being good meant being pleasant. However, true love and devotion do not need you to shrink or to forget who you are in order to please other people. You weren't here on this planet to serve as a comforting receptacle for other people. You are not a convenience, an emotional support system, or a means of patching things up. Let go of the urge to satisfy others. Put an end to your quest for approval to live fully. People who feed on your self-doubt will never find you enough, and you shouldn't have to bear that weight. Allow people to misinterpret you, label you as difficult, and accuse you of being selfish. You won't ever need to betray yourself to stay close to the folks who really love you. You are able to see through the pretense, the meaningless words, the staged laughing, and the goodwill that seems more like a show than a genuine bond. You used to ignore warning signs as miscommunications or signs of weakness and gave them the benefit of the doubt. Deep down, you knew that something was wrong, but you persuaded yourself that these contradictions were just a natural part of being human. Their words and gestures never quite matched, and you could see the strain beneath their grins. You now have faith in that sensation. That uneasy feeling was reality, attempting to emerge from the mist of your training, not psychosis. You had self-doubt at one point because you believed you were too sensitive, too judgmental, or too reluctant to follow the crowd. You filled in the blanks with optimism and made explanations for their inconsistencies, thinking that if you just loved them more and were more patient with them, they would ultimately show you the same level of sincerity. Sincerity, however, cannot be taught. When you show compassion to someone who bases their relationships on guilt, control, or convenience, they don't suddenly change. They merely change their strategies to keep you in their thrall. And now you see the pattern. The jokes that are really passive-aggressive. The warmth that leaves the minute you establish a boundary. The support that ends the moment you are no longer helpful. You realize how their presence in your life was never motivated by love, but rather by leverage, and how their generosity was transactional. It was always about what they could get out of you without you realizing it, not about who you were. The change is irrevocable once you accept this fact. You quit trying to explain yourself to those who never paid attention. You give up seeking approval from those who only appreciated you when you complied, because they were never based on anything genuine. The connections that once seemed vital now feel hollow. And as the delusion falls away, just clarity remains, clear, indisputable, and freeing. They will accuse you of being harsh, unappreciative, and unrecognizable, and they will label you remote. Permit them. Your capacity to see clearly is the only thing that has altered. You are harmful to those who depended on your blindness, since you are no longer ready to enjoy the game. But you don't have to bear that load. You've doubted yourself long enough. Now you know better, and you perform better when you know better. Allow them to melt. Those who are unable to meet you in your reality should be allowed to disappear like morning shadows. You are under no obligation to pursue them, defend yourself, or keep them in place while they oppose change. Their authority over you vanishes along with the version of you that required their approval. It's not your responsibility to mend those who weren't intended to remain. Some individuals will choose stasis over change, no matter how much affection you offer them or how many opportunities you provide them. Permit them. Because it works for them, people will hold on to the previous version of you. They will make an effort to remind you of who you were, who you should be, and who they anticipate you staying. That version of you was created to blend in with their environment and help them feel at ease. When others don't want to rise with you, let them go since you've outgrown them. Trust them when they tell you that your evolution bothers them. What was only ever convenient is revealed by growth. Only because you put up with less than you deserve did some relationships endure. They are unable to survive now that you are demanding more. Letting go is an act of self-preservation, not cruelty. You are no longer in charge of sustaining connections that are just habitual, of sustaining relationships that deplete you, or of sustaining talks that leave you feeling empty. You are free to choose tranquility over closeness. You are free to leave behind family members who just take advantage of you, friends who no longer feel secure, and partners who take your allegiance for duty. To help people feel comfortable in their stagnation, stop shrinking yourself. Give up burning yourself to keep them warm. Those that really care about you won't ever need you to compromise yourself for their comfort. They will accuse you of being conceited, ungrateful, and selfish in an attempt to drag you back. They will claim that you believe you are superior to them and that you have changed too much. Know that what they truly mean is that they are afraid that you will no longer be under their control. They were at ease with the version of you that put their pleasure ahead of your own, stayed quiet, and went above and above for them. However, you are no longer that person, and they will complain more loudly the more they discover they can't control you. Permit them. You are not responsible for their animosity, and you are not in charge of their suffering, and they will change the narrative once they realize they can no longer contact you. They will portray you as the bad guy and themselves as the victim. They will tell others about your heartlessness, abandonment, and negative changes. As you go in quiet, let them speak and tell their stories. You don't need to use energy defending yourself against those who are determined to misunderstand you. Whatever fits their interpretation of events, they will believe. You are no longer concerned about it. Walking ahead, unburdened, unbothered, and unfettered, is something you owe yourself. Let go of your guilt and your fear of making a mistake. You are only making your first self-choice. You are not. Additionally, those that are really a part of your life will always be there for you. They will climb with you. I trust what my spirit knows is a remark that should be left if you no longer choose to disregard the truth that has always been. You are worthy of all the fuss, all the love, all the attention, and all the work. You are deserving of everything. No more apologizing for taking up space or shrinking to accommodate others. You were never intended to show your value to others who don't recognize it by begging for the minimal necessities. You are no longer the person who took crumbs. You now take full advantage of your position of authority and demand. No, embody the abundance, love, and respect that have always been yours. They advised you to be thankful for what you had, to be modest, and to not ask for too much. But who gains when you reduce your standards, please? When you accept less than you deserve, who benefits? Not you. And this is the last day of it. There is no negotiating your value. It is not something you need to earn, justify, or explain. You are worthy because you exist, for a period. The spouse who treats you like a choice, the buddy who only calls when they need something, or the job that drains your soul but makes you feel thankful for it. You've spent too much time justifying those who don't appreciate you. Not anymore. Everything changes the instant you realize how valuable you are. The individuals who profited off your insecurity suddenly don't know what to do with you if you stop pursuing, overextending, and explaining. This is self-respect. It is neither entitlement nor arrogance. And those who think you're arrogant were only at ease while you were doubting yourself. Allow them to think as they choose, label you challenging, and leave if necessary. You are not here to minimize yourself for other people's comfort. You deserve it, just because you deserve it. You educate the world, that's all you think you deserve when you accept less. And people pay attention. You get what you can stand. However, the world adjusts to meet you at your new standard the instant you say enough and stop settling for one-sided relationships, meaningless friendships, and soul-crushing work. Asking for what should have been yours all along isn't asking for too much. Your value is not dependent on anything. When someone doesn't notice it, it doesn't go down. How much you do for other people, how amiable you are, or how much room you give to everyone except yourself are not indicators of it. It just is. And everything in your life will alter the instant you get it. There will be opposition, so it won't be simple. Some individuals may attempt to drag you back into the self they find most comfortable. It's not your issue, however. Your value negotiation is over. You've finished defending your claim to more. Anyone who wants to be in your life will now need to meet you where you are. Let them leave if they are unable to. "I am worth every ounce of love, respect, and abundance" is a remark that you should leave if you're not content with anything less. Let us now pause for a minute to celebrate those who have been selected. Cheers to the people who have a different perspective on the world, the quiet protectors, the watching spirits who are always awake and alert. They wouldn't have it any other way, and they don't fit the mold. They create their own pathways, waging invisible wars and shedding light on the dark places while others follow well-known ones. It's okay if it's not for everyone, but you'll know something is for you if you sense it in your soul. Just the truth, no disguises or pretension. Here, the Obsidian Inner Order is present, a location where like-minded individuals come together to exchange knowledge, bond, and change. More than 450 strong, bound together by purpose rather than conformity. The URL is in the description, so you know where to find us if you're ready. If not, that's okay too, since we're constantly here, keeping an eye on things and changing things in ways that aren't visible. Cheers to those that follow their own path, because it is who they are, not for attention. Cheers to you. Thank you. Too much of yourself has been given away by you. Fragments of your soul have been dispersed throughout times of duty, given to people who never really saw you, depleted by circumstances that demanded more of you than they ever gave, poured endlessly into relationships that left you empty, made room for people who never thought to make room for you, and silenced your own needs in order to preserve peace that was never yours to keep. You call it all back now, however. Every amount of energy you squandered trying to prove your value, every piece of yourself you gave up to fit into places that were never intended for you, and every ounce of love you poured into individuals who departed. You are no longer a conduit for the wants of others. Time to recover. You were taught for years that selflessness was a sign of love, that bearing suffering without complaining made you strong, and that being nice meant bending until you broke. Thus, you burdened yourself with demands that never existed, overexerted yourself in an attempt to live up to unrealistic expectations, and persuaded yourself that your emotions were unimportant and unworthy of consideration. But other from fatigue, what did it ever bring you? When was the last time you felt pain in silence? When was the last time you felt whole after putting everyone else first? The realization that you are not required to bear the sorrow, the shame, or the terror that was never yours to bear is the first step toward healing. It no longer belongs to you. However, healing involves both reclaiming and release. It's about learning to feed yourself the way you used to feed others, about reclaiming the aspects of yourself that were lost in the process. You've given, cared for, held, and fixed for so long. But who was there to do the same for you? Who told you that your needs were important too? Now is the moment to become that person for yourself, To treat yourself with the same love and care that you use to save for other people. To stop seeing rest as a luxury and begin viewing it as essential. And to stop viewing self-care as a luxury and begin to see it as survival. And limits are necessary for survival. It requires understanding when to back off, when to refuse, and when to leave emotionally taxing circumstances without expressing regret. You don't need to be available to everyone. You don't need to justify your absence, and you don't need to offer more than you have in order to establish your value. They never really respected you in the first place if they can't comprehend that you've already contributed enough. Recalling who you were before the world taught you that you were inadequate is what healing is all about. Not changing into someone else. It's about respecting yourself the way you were never taught to. About taking back the power that was always yours. Although it is the sole route to liberation, it is not an easy one. And for the first time in your life, you are making the decision to choose yourself because you finally realize that you deserve it, not because you have to. You are prepared to dominate without asking, without waiting for approval, and without transforming yourself into someone palatable in order to appease others. You are no longer the person who walked carefully around expectations and lowered their light to avoid upsetting delicate egos. The liminal space between who you are and who they want you to be is no longer your reality. You can't go back now that you've completely embraced who you are. They're correct when they claim you've changed. However, what they truly mean is that they no longer find you handy. You are no longer willing to be the supporting role in their tale, and you are too big to fit into the version of yourself they made. They are unnerved by your progress because it exposes the weaknesses in their own foundation. They will attempt to pull you back into the past, rather than confront their own constraints, because when you break free, you remind them of their own prisons. They will bring to memory the things you once accepted, the ways you once acted, and the quiet you once offered in the face of conflict. By portraying the past as something lovely and secure, they will attempt to entice you back with sentimentality. But take a deeper look. Was it capitulation or safety? Was it tolerance, or was it really love? It was never necessary for you to shrink in order to keep the people you loved near. At the juncture between acceptance and honesty, this is where a lot of individuals stumble. You've remained bound to relationships and surroundings that no longer work for you because of your fear of being disliked, criticized, or labeled difficult. But tell me, what have you ever gained by playing small? For whom has your silence really been advantageous? Above all, what do you lose each time you compromise your truth for the comfort of another person? You no longer owe them a version of yourself that prevents them from confronting their own shortcomings. You no longer belong to them. It is not your obligation to make others feel uncomfortable when they see your development. You will lose friends who used to feel like home. You will be misinterpreted, and you will be disliked. Allow it to happen because those who are intended for you will discover you in your clarity, rather than your compromise. The people who will accompany you into the next chapter are those who will be your allies rather than anchors. You no longer owe anything to the relationships that sapped you, to the expectations that kept you tiny, or to the version of yourself that existed just to please other people. Allow them to melt. Allow those who are unable to compete with you to fade into the background. All the trouble is worth it for you. You are worthy of being noticed, appreciated, and unconditionally loved. Above all, you are able to look past the facade. No more deception, no more acting, no more following someone else's plan. It's your time now. Think for a minute, take a deep breath, and decide which commitment you are willing to let go of. Is it the stress of having to live up to someone else's standards? The shame that binds you to those who don't support your development anymore? The dread of being criticized for your own choice? Let it out of your body, write it down, and say it aloud. Put it in the comments section. Tell the truth. Declaring your liberation and saying the words that seemed unachievable before have power. This is the place where you may be heard, seen, and seen as you change. As you do this, keep in mind that releasing is about creating space. Space for happiness, for tranquility, for connections that uplift rather than deplete you. You are moving in the direction of something bigger, rather than just away from it. Talk to others and help one another. This is a place where you may recover, feel empowered, and get your vitality back. This is not unique to you.